You're rocking with the hottest radio station, Mac Type Radio, the Ready to Learn show. Yours truly, Mac Joke. And today we got a very, very, very special guest. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Let them know who you are and what you do.
My name is Lisa Dawn Miller. I am a singer, a producer, and a theatrical producer. I just came out with a new record called I Need Your Love. Thank you so much for supporting it. I also manage my father's legacy catalog. He was a songwriter with Motown Records who wrote like most of Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross's early hits, like For Once in My Life, It Touched Me in the Morning, Someday at Christmas, Place in the Sun, on and on. So I work with Sony Music Publishing to manage that catalog.
Awesome. Well, you're a very, very busy lady. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be with us today. And let's start from the beginning, though, Lisa. Take us back to how did you initially get started with music?
Well, I grew up in the music industry. So my father was one of the original Motown songwriters that Berry Gordy, who was the founder of Motown. Brought on very early on with, Smokey Robinson, Stevie Wonder, Mickey Stevenson, Holland Goes to Holland. And Berry had this idea that he wanted to bring this musical theater guy onto Motown Records. Okay. And it was amazing because it was such a testament to bringing together our different backgrounds with this musical theater, with R&B, and, they created this thing called Motown sound, which has lasted, all this time and transcended time. So I grew up, when people ask me, oh, where did you learn to sing or did you study? And, I remember being a kid and my dad was in the studio producing Stevie Wonder and Diana Ross and all these amazing, Barbra Streisand, all these amazing people. So that's where I got started, and I had music my whole life. I loved it, but incredibly, very early on, I decided not to go into the music industry because I really wanted to have a business background.
Okay.
So I became a stockbroker, and I worked my way up to first vice president of Morgan Stanley. Wow. So I was a singing stockbroker. But later on, when you're an artist, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this, that, you never get it out of your soul. It's always there. So if you try to do something else, there's always going to be this burning desire to sing and write and perform. So later on in life, I decided that I was going to pursue it. And I started a show called Sandy Hackett's Rap Back Show. We tour all over the country. In fact, are you guys based out of Atlanta or near Atlanta?
Yes, we are.
So we played at the Cobb Energy Center there.
Okay.
Back, and I'm hoping to bring my show back there in the next couple of years. So I did that, and then I took over my father's song catalog, and I decided that it was time to pursue my own singing career since I perform live. Right. And I manage all these intellectual properties. So I came out with I Need Your Love, and I'm like blown away by all the support and love that I've had on this record. So thank you.
Well, it's definitely a great song. We have it in rotation in our station. Lisa, I want to go back a little bit to your business career. During your business tenure, did you learn some things that have helped you along the way as you came back to music?
That is actually an incredible question. I'm so glad that you asked that. And the reason I'm glad is that I think right now, the one thing, because of everything that I've been through, that I want to share with your audience and all the young artists out there is that you have to protect your intellectual properties. If you write a song and you're sitting down with somebody, you better make sure that you're getting credit for that you're getting paid for that. The industry is really, really tough. And my father, who's one of the most successful songwriters of all time, lost everything. He died with a song catalog that was earning millions of dollars, and yet he didn't have enough money to buy shoes. That's the truth. And I'm out here now to tell his story because, it's taken all these years, 16 years, for me to fight to get it back from, the music industry, and I got it back. And so now I feel like it's really important for me to share with young artists that what you're creating, you own it. That's your asset. And it may not be on the number one charts. It might not be, making $1 million today, but it's part of your brand and your building. And if you're not, taking care of the admin, making sure that you have the right agreements. If you sit down with someone, and you're writing a song, you guys need to figure out in advance, hey, I own the lyrics, you own the music, or it's 50-50. Let's just, put that in writing. Great. Let's go be creative. So in business, I learned to keep pushing,
Okay.
keep fighting for what I believed was right. And it's true when they say, look, you may, lose the battle, but you'll win the war. In the end, I feel like if you're really fighting for what's right, you will prevail. And you got to keep going. And when things look like, oh, this is so overwhelming and it's just so much, learn, research, educate yourself. Make sure you take a seat at the table, because nobody should be deciding for you the direction of your career, and especially your artistry. I mean, my dad, because everything was gone, he lost creative control of what he wanted to do because he didn't own the rights. And that's why when I set off on this journey 16 years ago, I said, look, if I'm ever going to tell my father's story, which is the end goal, because he has an incredible story, I'm going to have the rights. And without the rights, you can't do anything. So that's my big takeaway from business, is that, we're out here as artists and we love creating and we love going in the studio. I'm in my studio right now and I'm singing and all that. But in the end, it's the people on the business side that are going to make it happen for you, so that you can get out there and perform in venues and the deals that you put together for tours and things like that. So please research, educate yourself. And even if you bring on managers, you still need to have a basic understanding about what you're doing.
I love that. A little bit of what you said, Lisa, I want to dive a little deeper. You said about to keep going and to keep pushing. You're 16 years into your journey and still continuing to keep going. What has allowed you, or what have you done? What's able to help keep you going and to keep pushing in the fight, keep fighting, to get your father's story told?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, there's the things that I've learned for myself, and there's the things that my father gave me. For me, I feel like looking to the lyrics of his songs have always helped me when I feel like I've fallen down, to access his catalog. And it's like he's still here. He's still giving me his wisdom. But I think in terms of my own personal development and growth, it is so easy to listen to the noise, to go on social media, and this one's doing that and that one's doing that. And you know what? When it really comes down to it, we're all really in the same boat. It's the truth. They're sitting over there on the other side trying to figure out what they're going to post and what they're going to say and what they're going to do. And I think if you just take all the noise out of your life and concentrate on you, focus on you. And I think the most important thing for me is to have gratitude. Because if you don't have gratitude and you're so busy complaining about what you don't have, how can you ever be happy? But if you have gratitude for, hey, I have my life, my friends, I'm doing what I get to love, I've got my health, God willing, I've got, love in my life, how can you ever be unhappy if you're always focusing on what the good greatness that you've been blessed with? So that is what keeps me going.
I love that. Let's switch gears a little bit. You touched on something real quick. You said social media. What's your thoughts on social media as it pertains to your music career and I guess being able to connect with your fans and things of that nature?
Well, I mean, we can't deny that social media is here and it's here to stay. I feel like there's the pros and the cons, like everything else. I think if you're an artist today, you have to be on social media. I mean, I'm looking at that now. You've got to create your fan base online, and it gives people a chance to access your artistry, and you can talk about what you're doing and shows coming up, and even let people inside your world. I mean, I'm on here with you right now, whereas maybe 20 years ago it might have been on the phone. Now we're here, and you're in my studio where I create. This is where I write music, and so this is social media. People have now been invited into my studio to be a part of what I'm doing, which is great. I love that part of it. What I don't like about it
Okay.
is when, people are comparing themselves to other people. I mean, it can be really toxic. Oh, look at, he did that and she did that. And, I mean, that stuff, if you let that into your space, it will destroy you.
Mm.
So I think in terms of putting out your art and sharing what you feel comfortable with your audience. Hey, I'm working on this song, be a part of this with me. Or, hey, I've got a show coming up, come and see me at the Cobb Energy Center.
Right.
That's one thing. But when you start saying, oh, did you see what she was wearing? And da da da, I mean, I can't, I don't want to get involved with all that petty stuff.
It can be a distraction. It definitely can. Yeah. I love that. What's your thoughts on the music industry today?
Well, I feel, it's so, it's such a, my answer is more than just 1 minute, but I think because I grew up with my father being this Motown songwriter, and it was a different industry back then. So, I think back then it was all about just writing the songs. There was nothing else. My mom said all of those guys were starving. The Four Tops, Temptations, Stevie Wonder, Dinah Ross. They were all starving, and what they did is they would come over to the house. My mom would make her Filipino chicken, and everybody would smoke cigarettes and write songs, and that was it. It didn't matter whether you made money or anything. I mean, it was just about the writing of it. And I think now, and it's not a bad thing, but I think that everything today is about branding. It's not just about great music anymore. It's like, what is your brand? What do it's like selling the whole image of you. And I think that sometimes that can get discouraging for young independent artists who don't have the resources to put together a team that can, do a merchandising line and do a video and, have PR people and a clothing line and all these things that people, gravitate towards. And even the people who are really big stars, I think, that have a huge following, they still have people in the background that are, curating all of the image that goes out there and the discussions and the visions. So I think today's music industry is great in that it allows a lot of opportunity. I mean, the internet and social media has equalized the playing field. Yet on the other hand, there's a lot of people that come in that are negative in that way. I think there's still some great songs being written, but I also think sometimes I listen to songs and I wonder what people are thinking, especially like with fake rhymes. Like why can't you take the time to sit down and sometimes people will put a rhyme in just to rhyme and it has no connection at all to what they're saying.
No context or what's
so to me, it's like I want a beginning and a middle and an end, something that resonates, that I can relate to. Not, oh, they're stuck in this line that has nothing to do with what they're talking about because it was a great rhyme, and then it's not even a real rhyme; it's a fake rhyme. I'm not saying everybody's like that. I'm just saying that I think, like back in the olden days of my dad, there was a real effort to take the time to make sure that the work was good, the quality was good, that you were not lazy, that back then there was no internet. So pull out the rhyming dictionary. How does this relate to everything? And ultimately, look, I think that talent comes from a higher place.
Okay.
And I also feel like if you can connect to that and you let that into your life, that you'll resonate with a higher source, a higher vibration, and so those are the songs. Like For Once in My Life, I mean, my dad, Someday Christmas. These songs are more profound now than they were when he wrote them 60 years ago. Why does that song last, and one that was a huge hit 5 years ago no one's heard of. And I think it's because, you know, my dad never really tried to tune into what was popular or what the sound was.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
think one of the main things I today that bothers me about the music industry, is that everybody is trying to follow the trend.
Mm.
What's trending instead of creating the trend.
Mm.
I want to be the trend center. I want I want to be the one to
On
create,
it.
you know. So it's just kind of thinking outside the paradigm, and I just don't like the idea that people feel like they need to follow someone else. Be good with who you are. Follow
Mhm.
you. You
Say that. Say that.
know.
I love that. I love that. And speaking to your father's songs, that's why they're classics. If you can still resonate with them 15, 20 years later, they're classics, classics. Um, let's talk about Rhythm of Me. Um, how did that come about? What's the story behind it? And give us details. We want details.
Well, Rhythm of Me is a very, very special song to me because it was the first song that I did during the pandemic.
Okay.
You know, we were in lockdown here in Los Angeles. We were not allowed to go out or have anybody come in. So I had to learn to, number one, track my own vocals on Logic. I had no idea how to do that. You know, I always had an engineer. And so, you know, I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to do that. And I'm working with a beat maker who's back in Brooklyn. So everything is being done online. I'm like, how are we going to do this? We're not in person. And this Geico sent me this incredible beat, which I thought was amazing. And at the time, I happened to have the most beautiful man in the world here at my house. His name was James Wallace,
Okay.
and he was here with me when I was putting that together. And so the first thing we did is, you know, put the backgrounds on there. So we came with that da-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And it felt like when we were thinking about, you know, where to put the words, and we keep singing, ba-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, it felt like a heartbeat. So I
Okay.
said, what? I said, you baby are the rhythm. I mean, seriously, it felt like a rhythm of myself, my heart, my everything that I was thinking about him. And so the lyrics just came. I mean, there was, it was just every word was written for him. I sang it here in this studio. When he was here, he was right here, and it was really fun to put that together. And I think on the backgrounds we wrote tons of harmonies. My son actually helped me write some harmonies, and I think we were in here for like maybe, you know, 4 days just doing backgrounds. And then I put the lead vocal and I sent it to this amazing engineer named Paul Falcone, who had done a lot of engineering for other people like Luther Vandross. And I'm like, this guy must be good. Okay, we're doing everything alone. We sent it, and then he sent it back, and I was like, whoa, it sounded great. So that's how Rhythm of Me came about. And you know, unfortunately, I lost James suddenly. It was a tragic, tragic time in my life
Oh,
right after we recorded that record. So I didn't release it for a while. It took me a while to get over that. And I know that if he was here, he would be the first one, you know, to want me to release that record. So
that's
during
beautiful.
the time of, you know, when I was grieving, I would go down to the beach where we used to hang out. And I remember looking up to heaven saying, where are you? You know, where you said that you'd be here forever. And then one day I had this strong feeling
Mhm.
that just came over me that was kind of like, I'm right here. And I'm like, oh, there you are. I,
Wow.
I get it. It's like when somebody passes away, they're still in your heart, they're still in your soul. You just have to learn to connect with them in a different way. You can't talk to them, and you can't feel, you know, their hands
Right.
or their face, but you can feel their
Yeah,
heart and soul.
absolutely.
And so that became the inspiration for the new record that I have coming out that I had sat on for years. I had this piece of music that was gorgeous. It's a big ballad, a big string ballad. It's kind of like something that you might hear in a movie. But it was the inspiration. I'm coming out with that next month. It's called There You Are. And that song is about the revelation of connecting with your loved ones and knowing that they're always in your heart, even after they're gone, and also that they live on through you. If you just, give up and you're crying all the time and you're upset, they are in part of you. The trajectory of my life changed because I met James Edward Wallace Jr. And so he lives on through everything I do from this point forward, from that point forward.
That's a beautiful story, Lisa. And I did not know that. Condolences to you, and just hearing that story, it it makes that song hit a little bit more harder. Just knowing the actual, meaning. And then I love your follow up, because that is so true. That is so true. Um, how long do you think it took you to finally put out the song? I know you said you were grieving a little bit.
I we had done that song during the pandemic, and sonically, amazingly, I feel like it was such a great record, which just goes to show that you don't necessarily have to be in the studio for every single song and engineering it. We could do a lot of it online, but I think that was, I wrote that in 2020, and I really held on to it for quite a while because it's just hard. You're going through, you love this person, every word that you hear in the song is him.
Right.
And so I decided to finally release it this last year. And then, so that, what is that, 3 years it took me to put that record out. So I also have a new show that I just launched in New York City at 54 Below. It's called For Once in My Life, The Songs of Ron Miller. And I'm really, really excited about it. I'm actually developing a new show for Broadway, which maybe I get to bring to the Cobb Energy Center one day.
Let's do
But in the interim, because it's going to take a few years to probably get that going, I said, why don't I just start celebrating the music? So I put a show together where I invite guests in each city, wherever I am, whatever like cool artists there are, and we just sing the catalog of Ron Miller. And it was very well received. And so now I'm going to be performing at Vibrato in Beverly Hills here on March 13th. And then I have another date in New York at March 25th at Chelsea Table and Stage doing that show. So it's called For Once in My Life, The Songs of Ron Miller.
That's dope. I love it. And yes, we do have to get you back at the Cobb. That's a must. I love that. Real quick, Miss Lisa, that was your first song that you actually had recorded where you were not actually in the same studio with your engineer. And
Yeah, because it was during the pandemic, and I said, "Can we really do this?" And my studio setup here is great. It's a high-level studio, and it's great. But normally, even when I record in here, I have an engineer, so I had to learn how to, track vocals, and that just goes to show you can learn. You can go online and learn. We had no choice. We couldn't leave, and I could call my friends. I could call engineers that I knew, and that was great, and they helped me through it. But now it's amazing how I can kind of just whiz through everything. But even so, I will be here in the studio, and I'll usually do a lot of scratch vocals in here.
okay.
But when I come to record now that there's no pandemic, I still love going into the studio. Like I did I Need Your Love, which was my first song that I came out with. I recorded that in person in several studios. Here I did all the scratch vocals, but I also recorded that at Quad in New York City, and also at here at 4th Street Studio in Santa Monica. And then Paul Falcone mixed that one as well.
Dope. Well, I was just asking real quick because I was going to follow up, and I'm still going to follow up with this question. How do you like the two? Do you like being actually in studio with, if you're collaborating with the artist or the artist engineer, or could you actually work alone and send it off and have it sent back?
I could do it alone, but I absolutely 100% love being with people. I love the collaboration. I love getting people's thoughts about what I'm doing. Hey, what did you think of that? I'm in here. I'll do a take 100 times if I don't like it. So to have those ears listening for me, I absolutely love that better. But if it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you have a musical idea and you want to lay it down, I'm not going to call my engineer in Santa Monica. Can we meet? So I'll come down here. I took a lot of time to put this studio together. So I'll work out things here in the studio or go to the piano upstairs.
Well, it looks amazing. It really, really, truly. Um, Real quick, let me get your thoughts then. Because I do love speaking with you, someone that you know had music experience, has a music background, kind of to where it's not today. So I love getting your perspective. With that said, how do you like streaming versus physical album sales? What's your thoughts on that?
Well, the problem to me is that, with streaming, you have to stream so much in order to make money. And there's been a lot of fighting about, the some of these companies, like I'm sure or some of your artists know that, the royalty board sets what these streaming amounts are going to be. And, 4 years ago, or longer, we were given finally, after years and years, an increase in streaming rates. And who was it that fought that and appealed us getting higher rates? Spotify.
Mm-hmm.
And every single time you go online, every artist is saying, look at my Spotify numbers, look at my Spotify numbers, and I never did that, because I thought, wow, you're fighting to pay the artist. And the Music Publishers Association, which is headed up by David Israelielite, through Prior Cashman, fought their appeal and won. So they were forced to pay. Apple was not part of that, but Spotify, Google, YouTube was all a part of that. And so when we finally, now it's set in stone, we're getting that raise and it's retroactive to $1. Then they have to be forced to pay. They're still, dragging their feet on paying us. So with the streaming, I think as long as artists can get paid, I think as long as there is, a way to account for all your royalties. I love the idea of streaming. I mean, prior to, Stephen Jobs, had this idea of this little thing called an iPod that, no one ever touched their music before, but the music industry was dying. And then he found this way through streaming that we can, get this out, the convenience of it, and being able to have, broad exposure to the world. That part of it is great. But I feel like we're still not there in terms of what songwriters are getting paid. We're still, you're still having to make, yes, you can make a living, but I don't want to just make a living. I want to be paid for the work that I do.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as there's a way to ensure that we can get our rightful due, then I'm fine with streaming. I also like physical product. The problem with physical product, I think nowadays people are like actually starting to make LPs and records and stuff as souvenirs. But the problem is there aren't a lot of devices to play that on. Who wants to have 20 CDs in your car when you can just go to Apple Music or Spotify and play your song? So if you're doing it for, for souvenir, like when I do my Rap Pack show, people will come up after the show and they want something to hold. They want a physical product. So we have a physical CD. But if you want to listen to the songs, it's just easier, to go online. And then, now with Spotify, I'm much more involved and I'm okay to support Spotify as long as, we're going to get our money.
Right.
Because they have a great platform. They have like great tools for artists to go out there and market their music and everything. So I'm all for protecting the artist. That's the most important thing to me. So
one quick question, a couple more, but one, for all the starving, hungry and artists, what would you tell them the first thing if they're itching to just get into the music industry?
Well, I think the most important thing to arm yourself with is knowledge. I mean, it sounds like a little bit corny, but it's true. I mean, it's like arm yourself with an arsenal and wealth of knowledge, because if you're smart, you can make the right connections and you can make the right deals for yourself. If your music is good and you start there, work on your craft. I know I asked my dad one time what advice he had for young songwriters, and he said, my dad never preached. I don't know if sometimes on social media, people will say, oh, well, you should be doing this with your life and you should do this and this. My dad hated preaching, because when you're out there preaching, you're telling people what they need to think rather than letting them think for it on their own. So I think that number one, instead of trying to tell people what to do, look at yourself and work on you, work on your craft. My dad said, throw out what you don't like, be objective, come back to it, write it again and again and again and again. And then when you have your music and you love it and you know it's good, then go out there and fight for it. And I use the word fight not lightly, because I do feel that there is an element where you really have to push yourself and fight through a lot of bullshit in order to get to a place where people take you seriously. And when you do have that seat at the table, you have to have something to say. And the most important thing, listen. Stop talking, listen. And if you listen, then you will hear what you need to hear in order to help propel your own career and do what you need to do in order to get to the place that you've set out for yourself.
That part, I love that. Two questions that I ask every guest, but before I ask these two questions, what's next for Miss Lisa Dawn?
Oh, well, I'm very excited about working. I told you earlier I was working on a show for Broadway. It's called A Place in the Sun. And I'm going to the Grammy Awards on Sunday. I'm excited about that.
Right.
And then that following week, I have my first table read for this Place in the Sun. So it's like where I bring all the actors together. We're not going to do the music. We're just going to do the dialogue. So it's the first time I've gotten to hear my written, script with other people doing it. So I'm very excited about developing that. In addition to that, I was just at the APAP conference in New York, which is where all the arts presenters go and buy shows for their season, like Cobb Energy Center and all these theatrical communities. So we have several shows that we're putting on tour. It's Rat Pack show, which we're in our 15th year on that. And then I have this new show for Once in My Life. And then My Buddy, which is my husband's show about his father, who was a legendary comedian named Buddy Hackett. So we're putting all those shows on tour. And then in terms of my music, I'm very, very excited, because for those of you who've heard my song, I Need Your Love, there's an incredible rapper on there named Marcus H, who I love. I love, love, love his voice. And I said, no one has ever covered Touch Me in the Morning by Diana Ross, which my father wrote. When Diana Ross had just finished, I guess, Lady Sings the Blues, she was getting a lot of, exposure, and people were loving her and a lot of buzz about her. Berry Gordy needed her to have a number one hit, and he asked my dad to write a song. So my father wrote Touch Me in the Morning, which is one of her first and biggest hits. But no one's ever covered it, because how do you cover Diana Ross? It's like, how? She's like the ultimate, the first diva,
Yeah, right.
But I want to do it differently. I want to do it as a duet, as a tender piano-only ballad. So this rapper who is incredible at rapping, I said, by any chance, can you sing ballads? He goes, can I sing ballads? Oh my God, Mac's voice is gorgeous on this record. It's so beautiful.
That's awesome.
So yeah, so I've got a duet with Touch Me in the Morning, my father's song, with Marcus H coming out. And I have a couple of other covers that I'm going to surprise and drop this year. So yeah, I'm really excited. Still working on the music and touring and all of that.
I love it. Miss Lisa, real quick too, you got to go ahead and follow up and just let the people know how they can stay in touch with you. They want to keep up with you and things like that. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. You can find me at my website at lisadawnmiller.com. So it's like dawn, like the break of dawn, lisadawnmiller.com. And I'm on social media at Lisa Dawn Miller everywhere. And you can connect to all my other websites through my main website, lisadawnmiller.com.
Tap in. I had to throw that in right behind that fabulous, menu of wonderful things you have to come. But two questions, though, that I do ask every guest before we get out of here. First one being, Miss Lisa, how do you want to be remembered?
Wow. I think that the most important thing to me ever in life is love. I feel like if people think that I gave love, and especially to my children, that is the most important thing. I hope that I was kind to people. I hope that I cared about people. I hope that I grew, that I didn't just stagnate and stay here, that I was continually able to evolve, and that I could touch someone's spirit and heart the way James touched my heart. He's gone, but he will always be in my life because what he taught me impacts the trajectory of where I'm going. So I think I would like to be remembered that I loved with all my heart. I also, there's a saying that I always say is about my son. I have two amazing children, Oliver and Ashley. But there's a saying about my son, and it comes from Wizard of Oz, the movie.
Mhm.
And at the end, it's like when the wizard says to the Tin Man, a man or a heart is not judged by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. So love, that's it. That's the answer.
I love that. That's a great answer. That's a great answer. And last but not least, let us know one thing that you are ready to learn more about. What's one thing that you'd like to learn about?
Oh my gosh, there's so much. One thing that I'd like to learn more about. I would like to learn more about the law. I have learned a lot about intellectual property law, but I find it fascinating. I think Stephen Jobs said that all young students should in high school should take computer programming, not because they were going to become computer programmers, but because it taught you something about life. I feel that if everyone studies the law in high school, it teaches you to go through a process in which to get through your differences. And that's what I've learned from the law. And that, you go in, and as I was fighting for my dad's royalties, you just want to go in there and fight. How dare you do that? You want to get emotional. But you learn through the process, and I'm not saying that we have the greatest system in the world, but I think you learn a process of communication and understanding facts, understanding evidence, understanding, how you get to the truth. So I'd like to dig deeper and learn more about the legal process, especially since there's so much that we have to do in this world because of everything that's going on to fight for our equality and our rights and peace. And I'd like to be a part of that.
And protection, to protect ourselves. I love it. Miss Lisa, you are welcome back anytime on the Ready to.
Thank you. You're so sweet. You're so nice.
And you're awesome. And we'll be on the lookout for that upcoming single.
Thank you so much for having me, Mac. I really appreciate it so much.
I love it. Much love and many blessings.
Much love to you and blessing. Thank you.
Okay.